Hey guys, this is another video, and in this video, I'm gonna finish the rest of the project, the little project we are doing at the moment, the student portal. So I made some changes, so it's looking pretty different from what it used to look like, and I added this guy, which is like very nice captcha, so you cannot just auto submit the stuff. So I mean, now I need to show you some things like how this form actually works. So until now we have covered how to create this kind of form, just a vague, right? And create custom component like this upload button and like this one, and then yeah, a few more wrapper fields for this input, and then we handle the state management of the form. So we did that, and now we are able to actually capture the form data, right, on the submit or whatever register. Now, after this, what comes next is handling on the server side. When we submit the form, we need to make a request, and this request goes to a server or an API, like API call, right? So, where do we make this API call? As we are using Next.js, we have this feature called like this. The folder inside pages that's called API. Under the API, if you create a file, it's not a component. It's like login, register. You see, these are different kind of stuff. These are APIs. They send back the response. Um, I'm gonna go through every one of them one by one, but just FYI, you can read more about APIs and how they generally respond. This is a simple API. See, this is just a function which accepts two parameters. If you have worked with Express before, this is totally understandable, right? Even if not, this is just a request object and a response object. Request is what comes from the server, so from the client, that is your browser, and maybe like Postman or something. And this is a response, res. This is a response object which is used by server to send back to the client, like the data. So what we are doing here is respond dot status, which is the status code of the response, and then we are telling it's a JSON data, and then we are sending the data itself. Pretty simple. It's like hello world of the API world. That's it. You just like send it, and whether it's a post request, get request, whatever, whichever type of request, it will only be handled by this guy. So if I just paste this here, uh, sorry, like this, so it will just if I send a delete request or a get request or a post request, it will also send this. But in this case, I need to post data, you know, and as you know, this data is pretty complex. This is a literally data structure with a like file type, right? Like files and stuff. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna we're gonna handle it in a post request. So this is our API, right? We submit the request. Now request comes here first. Like, I guess I gonna have to show you this verification check again. uh, like for the first time, of course, to you guys. You haven't seen this is default state, by the way. And there's a reCAPTCHA. You can look into the Google official page, because this is Google's reCAPTCHA. But here's a little FYI. You use this. It's a create ref thing by React, which, it's just a like reference thing. It's a reference hook. Pretty simple, right? So you can reference like a component here, right? So if if I may, so this is a reCAPTCHA object, like reCAPTCHA component, which is created by Google guys, I guess, or whatnot. Which you can like Google React Google reCAPTCHA. You can like Google this component. So this components take few inputs, which is apparently apparently a public key, site public key, which is like public key, of course, which is in .env. So, okay, I cannot show you that, but yeah, you can get it from Google APIs. yeah, this is the old file, whatever. And then you have a function which is on change. So when you click on this thing, on change occur, like state change, right? So when you go here on change, you get an object which is, you guessed it right, reCAPTCHA code. When you get a reCAPTCHA code, you can set it to the you can set it as part of your use state. So you can use it with different like request, so reCAPTCHA code, I set the reCAPTCHA code now in the, not the valid level, it is a boring thing. In the handle part, you send your form data, which is just default values form data, and the reCAPTCHA code itself. So this is how we are sending reCAPTCHA to the backend. I mean, pretty simple, right? Like, and if you don't know reCAPTCHA still, like, just I mean, use this application, man. This is pretty good. Okay. Now, yeah, once this reCAPTCHA is filled, you fill the form, you hit the submit. Now request goes here, not a login, in the submit portion. Okay, so what happens? First, I hit the Google API, which is like google.com/reCAPTCHA/API/sites verify, and then I send a secret, and then I send response. Secret, you can generate this secret and stuff by going, like, you just need to go through this. So you just need to go through this form, and you will get a form, you, like, you will get a Google reCAPTCHA thing, like, where you can just go there and generate your own API keys and stuff for your website, not mine. So it will work, right? And see, if you just use, I guess, this component or whatever component I used, it's just literally it's same. See, reCAPTCHA dot, it's using a use ref, and I use a great ref which is a little different, but it does exact same thing. I don't know, I'm not a genius, guys, like, get me some slack, right? So, well, this is how reCAPTCHA works in a nutshell. It lets you, a user, a real person, submit the form, not some bot. I cannot just make now a bot, a script to just submit 10 times. I need to generate this reCAPTCHA. And I don't know, maybe there's a bypass. Don't call me a loser. I don't know, dude. No one can know everything. So this is pretty common protection, right? So once you send reCAPTCHA here, this is used to verify. Now I get the response here. JSON parse the response. If I see, like, I should use optional chaining, right? Because why not? We are using JavaScript. Well, if it's bad, if it's not success, then we send reCAPTCHA validation failure, which what a bot or a script will get. Otherwise, we continue. This never executes, right? Like this part, especially, and then we do few things. We do the docs count. That's a logic for. I mean, I can explain it, right? So you know how we are using files in our input, like here we actually upload the thing, right? So we have two files, we have to save the file somewhere. To save file, I'm using Cloudinary. You guys will ask, what is Cloudinary? Cloudinary is something, okay? Cloudinary is a place where you can, like, which you can use to like store your files and stuff, okay? It has like pretty good API to just push your data into it. If you need code, like, I will of course provide it, and stuff. So here's like Cloudinary config. You can just import Cloudinary from their official npm package, and you provide your API key and whatnot, and then you export the Cloudinary object, which is configured by, like, provided API. Just sign up to this and you will get a free API. It has good amount of storage, so you are good. Now one more thing, we are using a database to store the form, right? Like, just to be on same page, we are using a database. What database we are using? Good question. We are using You guessed it, MongoDB. We always use MongoDB because few days earlier MongoDB sent us some good gifts, right? That was cool. Uh, so, if you may, this is a registration form, right? This is a registration API. API is looking pretty weird here because there's this handler which uses a middleware, and then there's this function. You can ignore this function now. There's both of these things, and then there is a post request. We only learned about this. What about this and this? Okay, let me tell you. If I just remove this, it's all same, you guys. It's just a request handler which handles a post request, but there is a middleware. What does middleware do? Let's see. Middleware has a use of a database middleware. Now let's see what database middleware do. Database middleware just connects to MongoDB, you big brain fuck. Okay, that was unnecessary, but of course, man, you need to connect to database to be able to push data to the database, right? It's just not some file. So you connect to database, you have some URL stored in your .env, and then you whatever connect to more database, shut up, and then after connecting to database you check for listener, whatever, blah 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 blah, blah. And then very important part, request.db client, which is a made up temporary variable for this particular request, will get the client. Now, what does client do? Client is an object that points to the current connection of the database. Okay, so you will be able to use the properties of database, like database, like client.connection. What are collections? Collections are group of documents binded together under a name. Like user is a collection which contains a group of user information. So this group of user information, each one is called a document. A document is just a key value pair. For example, what we are sending here, this form data, literally I'm going to push this literally this exact data to the database because it's just a key and a value, and combined it's called a key value pair, you small brains. Now it's a key value pair, you can push it to the database. Okay, I'm not gonna explain it any further. That's it. That's the work of this whole thing. One more thing I'm doing is this connects to a whole cluster. Okay, this request, like whatever this MongoDB URI. From the cluster, you have multiple databases. You need to get your own database. So that's the database name. So you connect it to your you like select your database, and now you can run queries like fetch data from a collection which belongs to this database. Okay, now once we connect to the database, if you hit next, what is next? So see, when request comes to a server, either it goes through a middleware or it goes to a controller. Controller is just a middleware, means a function which has access to request and response properties, but it's the end of the request itself. Then you send the response to the user. That's a controller. But a middleware, you can a multiple middleware. You can put like n number of middlewares in between the request being sent to user and when it comes to a server. So in between. Okay, I can show a diagram and stuff to you, but that for another video maybe. Okay, so yeah, a middleware is just a function which has same request and response object. So I'm populating this property, but it will be used by a different controller which is like register. Of course it's gonna use it. So if I just copy this here and to just demonstrate, okay, it's using client. Why you do this? It's using DB. See, so when you can now ask what is DB. So client.db is just that database from that cluster. So see, client.db, which points to now the database dot collection, which is students, then insert one, which is like literally the body of the request, and the image, which I will tell you where it came from, and then date, which is currently what date it is. That as simple as that. Now, some of you can diss me for not using Mongoose, so fuck you, first of all. And second, I'm not using Mongoose because I don't really want to, guys. it's not really a schema. It's just data coming from one source to push to another source. It doesn't really need a schema. Well, you can put a schema and you can put 10 different schema. It doesn't really matter. You just take data from one thing and put it on another, okay, on a database, and then you read it and show it in your admin panel. It's not very complex, okay. So you can just use MongoDB as it is, like literally MongoDB instead of Mongoose or something else, ORM. Well, Mongoose is the best, but just the MongoDB, and you can push data to the thing. So what I'm doing here, back to this request.db. So I'm going to database and then a collection which is students, where all the documents of each student who submits the data present. uh, there I'm checking how many documents are there. So, well, it's a self-explanatory thing. I don't know why I'm repeating this or saying, even explaining this, maybe to make this video a bit longer, you idiots. So doc count, we have the document count. So student folder name, which is doc count plus 1, because it start from 0, I guess. But when there is no student in the database, no student submitted the report, it will say 0, which is ugly. So when the first one submits when the first one does the submission, it says 0 plus 1, which is first. So he is the first one. So it makes sense. When so it says a number, what number you are student, and then underscore underscore, and then a random 32-bit, like random whatever substring of it's a random string, okay. It's a random string generated by this little shit of code, okay. And you can like paste it on whatever in your console and generate some response for sure. See, it generated different. See, oh, no, what yeah, see, every time it's different. So it's like this. It's like uh, maybe 5 4 or and plus, well, plus this. Well, 4 should be wrapped around like this. So this is the a folder where what is going to store? Student folder. So it's if it's called a student folder, then it means student data is going to be stored in that folder. But student data is already stored in database. So why there is a folder? Well, there is a folder because we don't only have data, we have files also. So data, well, files are also data. But I'm saying we just don't have JSON or key value pair data. We have files to store somewhere. We cannot store that in MongoDB because either I'm too small brain to store it there, or it just it's just impossible. Maybe it's yeah, I know it's possible, okay, but fuck it. I'm just going to store it different place. So I'm going to store it in Cloudinary. Well, now what? Now there's an upload function. If photo is not null and signature is not null, then we upload it one by one. So upload function. This is why this function is there. See, I told you to be patient. Now here it is. Well, you await for this to complete and then you return the response. What is the response? I will tell you. So Cloudinary, which is just this thing, configured Cloudinary object dot uploader, which is whatever dot upload, which is a function. So this function takes some input. First is of course the file, which is itself, and if you ask like what is file, just send the base64 or the streamified version of it. Well, if you need a like tutorial on Cloudinary, just let me know. I will share a tutorial on Cloudinary itself. But you here all you have to know is you have to pass a base64 of a file. That's it. And second option, there are some like this is an object with this many options that you have, and once you submit, there is a callback. In this callback you can actually get the response or the result, which is a URL which you can use to access the files. So once you get the URL, you can store that URL in database. So you get the file from client, you upload it to the bucket or a Cloudinary, system, and then you get the URL to access those files, and then you take that URL, and remember you have MongoDB database, you upload the files in MongoDB database with not the file, sorry, upload the URL instead of files in MongoDB database. So when the client asks for where my file is, or the admin, we can just provide them the URL and they can access the files from through it. As simple as that. Okay. I'm exhausted. This is why I don't like making YouTube videos. I'm kidding. I love making YouTube videos. I just didn't have time, or I was like lazy or lack of motivation. Shut up. Well, now see, there are few options. I can explain those, but only if I know what are those. Okay, I don't know. I don't really know. So this is a folder name. This is override true if already there is a file and a folder by this name, exact same thing, which is really not possible, but let's suppose it is, then you will just overwrite that file. Okay, it won't make a conflict. Invalidate true. I don't really know what that means, but I pretend I do. We close this, and once you get, if you get error, you, well, you return and you console log the error, or you run the callback, which is a function sent by the caller of this function, and it's a function which take input from this callback that is provided by the thing itself, upload function of the Cloudinary, and where I will just pass the request.url, and if request.url isn't there, well, then I will just send null. Okay, so let's get back to the upload function where I literally called it. So I called it here. Okay, first second thing is folder name, first thing is files.photo. Files.photo, now I must tell you, files.photo is already base64, because when we created the, well, we didn't, but I later changed that upload function to actually store base64 of it, or maybe I showed it to you, or maybe I didn't, I don't remember. So yeah, I can share it, the code, like, just ask in the comment section if anybody watches this video. I bet no one does. So this is result. Now result is basically the same thing that I told you, the result.url. So this is the URL after uploading the files to the database. Now you take this URL and save it instead of file base64. So base64 are now replaced by the images. Well, not really, it's a new object. Okay, I know it's a new object, but I'm just saying you can literally update the body part, or literally the file itself by its URL. It really doesn't matter because we are not doing anything else with it. Okay, going out of topic again, sorry. Now when you upload a photo, you get the result, which is the URL to access that photo after uploading it to the Cloudinary through this function. You save it to this images imgs object. You do the same with signature, which is just another file. Okay, which is signature of user, and then you pass the same function. And I did this way because this is like short way of like writing an arrow function. Yeah. Now we make another, like, once we upload these two files in the database and get their URLs and store it in this object, now what we do is we send another database request to insert a document into the student's collection. So this is just another student with like JSON body and with imgs, which is this object which contains URLs of student files that student uploaded, right? The file that student uploaded. Okay, and a new date. Well, as simple as that. Once you get the response, you wait for response. Once you get the response, it has a property called acknowledge, which should be true. So if acknowledged, or you can just write acknowledge or true, if that's true, then you send the response okay, else you send the response error. Now yeah, that's pretty much it. You return the handler. this is a pretty complex function, and it's, I guess, pretty weird to digest. And there are, you can see, like there's a login API. What the fuck is this? It's pretty much same. It asks for username, it asks for password, and then it goes to a collection user. I already explained what a collection is and what a request is, what a request body is. It's just a different form, like yeah, this one, slash admin slash login. So you log into the thing, and now if you know the password, you will be able to log in, okay? And if you don't know the password, then fuck off. So if you know the password, it will generate a JWT, which is protected by a JWT secret. Now it will expire in like about 1 day. Yeah, it's already written here, yeah. But yeah, this is expires in, and it will expire in 1 day. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You bastards. Well, now we have done register part, so you know where the request is coming from, and you know where the request goes and how the response comes back. Now I can end this video here, or I can explain this more few more things which I'm interested in actually. Now that we are doing video, you see how we send the JWT here in the login request. See this JWT. What do you do with this JWT? There's a slash admin, right? So slash admin can actually access these files and this data that student is storing. Now what you can do is you can fetch this data, but not everyone should be able to fetch this data. You should be able to fetch it if you are the admin. And how do you know you are the admin? Because you have right ID, right email, and right password. If you have right email and right password, you get the JWT. And now it's time to verify the JWT. So I know you are the real deal, right? So there's different middleware called auth. Okay, here's the database. Here's the auth. You use this auth middleware to check if the response has a header called authorization, and you split in one, because when you get the request, it's like this: bearer, and this is token. The token itself is that JWT that we generated on the login request. So bippity boom, and you get the request, you get the token from the request. If there is no token, you send auth failed with a 401 response. Then if there is a token, you verify the token using just passing the token as first argument, and we are using JSON Web Token library, okay? JWT.verify, which is first argument, the token itself, second the secret that is stored in server only, and you can know this secret on your client, because if you do, you can just generate your own JWT token without even have to log in, which is a disaster. Trust me, you don't have to. You don't want to do that with your clients. Now if there is two things, error and decoded. Now if your JWT is like corrupt or expired, you get this error. If you get this error, you can literally like log this error, you know, like, right? And after logging it, or you can just not log it. I know if it's wrong, it's one of the two reasons: either it's expired or it's corrupt. In debugging you can like log it, but I don't really need to do that here. Now you just send the response 401, or you save the user detail to the request.user object property. Then what you do is you call the next this, as this is a middleware, so this is the middle of the request. There is another function which is waiting for this function to give a thumbs up, so the request can go to next function, which is the mail deal. Okay, so we close this, we come to the admin API/API/admin, and here it is. We have a get request, we have a delete request. So you see how this register function can insert data, get can actually pull all the data, and delete, as you guessed it, it can delete the data. Now we also need a database here, and we need auth here. So in the auth, you see we are verifying the JWT, but before even verifying, we are actually checking the database connection. And if we are not connected to database, so close using this function, whatever it does. I don't know. I do, but I don't really plan to understand to explain it all. So or I did explain it before, remember? I do. So we have this two we have this two middleware which just connects to the database, and other one verifies the jailbreak token. Once two are passed, then the request can actually you know handle the request can be handled. Sorry, I slipped, I was thinking of something else. Now get request has two things, a start date and the end date. So you see, in the register, when we store data, we created at we store this object called created at, right? This object contains the date on which you submitted the user data. Now start and end date are probably the month start at the month end, or maybe two random dates in between, which if that date is when you registered the data, if that makes sense, then you will be able to pull data in that time period. So there is the start time and there is the end time. Any data that is submitted between that time can be fetched using this API. So if you are admin and you have the correct token, you can send the request to slash admin slash, that's it, slash admin API, and in this get request you will be able to fetch all the data. Then once you make a DB request to fetch the data, then you get all the students, and yeah, you just convert it to array and send it back to the user. Now you can make a fancy UI to like show all the user data and stuff, but that's not the scope of this video. It's just about taking data, uploading to the database and sending it back to user, and how you can do that in worst match in using the worst method possible, right? You could just have used a content management system, CMS, but I'm too big brain to do that. Sorry. Now if there's some error, then you log the error, because developer needs to see this to be able to figure out what the fuck is going on, and then you send the thing to the user saying something went wrong. Now this is pretty simple. Once you are authenticated, this authentication is pretty important, okay? Once you are authenticated, you will be able to get data. In the delete request, well, you send the ID. Okay, one more thing. When you submit this data to the MongoDB, you see there's no ID actually. But when you submit the document, MongoDB generates underscore ID property under the document, under each document that is submitted to MongoDB, which I call ID of that document, or even MongoDB calls that because it's the ID of that document. Now, using that ID, that I can figure out what the particular document is. So this document which I'm logging, apparently its ID. Using this ID, I can just make a delete request for one document where underscore ID is populated by this guy, this gentleman, which is sent by the user itself. Then the request and well, the request or the query goes to database and you get the response. The response has a property called deleted count. So, well, how many things you are deleting. So if that is one, and you get the two, you send the 200 success true. Else well, you can put else, or you, if you don't, that's really fine. And that sends a fail, but you send 200 because you're a nice person. Or exists is a bitch, which is another topic. Then there's a catch. Catch is if the query fails for some reason, maybe the database is not connected, which shouldn't really happen, because if that's the case, then request will return from this place only, never even come to this place. Well, whatever the case, if the catch triggers, it will send another response called something went wrong, and that's it. That's it, guys. That's how we collect user data using a ugly looking form, and then moderate data using secure APIs, and using JWT and stuff. Now just little after information for this project. This is very scrappy, very non-standard way to do things, and really it's fine. Whatever works. If it works, it works. Okay, whatever. Now, you could have used CMS to store stuff. You could have used auth instead of username password for admin to actually store data. And there is the next auth library, which is very good if you want to use with Next.js, because it's literally supported by Next.js. It's called Next Auth. Okay. Now you can use this library. It's well-known library, okay, for the authentication from Next.js, and you can, yeah, you can have fun with it. You could have used that, but here I did everything from scratch. I stored it in database using queries. Literally stored file on different database. You could have done all that in CMS. Just saying. Now, well, there you'd also require to write a API request, to at least CMS. You would need to connect to CMS, and even in the API, even in like the next auth, you would need to handle it somehow. Okay, things are not gonna done by itself, but here's a snippet given, so you can just like copy paste this and whippity boop, just paste it something somewhere. Like it's really just another middle layer, and that's pretty much it. Well, that's the end of this video, I guess. Next video, I don't know when the next video will be coming. I can post stuff about Discord bots. I have now quite a bit of experience with Discord bots, so I think I can. Maybe I should. And I'm currently learning about Minecraft plugins. Yeah, yay! I am learning about Minecraft plugins, so I can upload about that also. If you are interested in something else, you can comment. Even if someone is watching this video, that is. Uh, yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. Bye bye.